Therefore, those of you that are on social media, Facebook, yours is Ask Muvi. My guest, President Muyumba, will be able to respond to some of the questions or queries that you may be having. We continue to encourage you to make sure that you are sanitizing, observing physical, social distance, masking up, and where I am seated and the president of NUPES is more than 1 meter. And so we'll take off our masks so that you'll be able to listen to the conversation that we are having tonight. Mr. President, once again, you are welcome to Muvi TV, and it's my rare honor to host you tonight. We want to discuss, is it debt trap or debt swap? First of all, let us understand what is the background to this animal that we are discussing called debt swap.
Okay, thank you so much. The concept has got an overarching term that is debt swap. But therein lie two more other concepts that we are going to look at as we discuss the topic. However, the background to this issue is that our workers have been indebted, and so highly. They have been highly indebted for a long time, to an extent that even for them to feel that they are working, it's very difficult. For them to appreciate that they have a salary they can take home has been very, very difficult. Because to a large extent, due to inflation and also depreciation of our currency, there are other penalties that they incur or interest that keep on increasing. And instead of them finishing paying off the same debts at the time they agreed on with the bank, they see extensions. So a loan that is supposed to be paid, for example, in 4 years, gets to about 7 years. And when you look at the amount they got and the amount they are paying back, it's too much. For example, somebody gets 50,000 kwacha, and they pay back 300,000 kwacha because of some of these particular indicators that I've mentioned. And this has been a yoke so heavy on the shoulders and necks of these civil servants. So even when you talk about salary increase, no matter how substantial or minimal it may be, it doesn't serve any purpose, because almost whatever the civil servant is getting is going to the financial institutions, leaving them with almost nothing. And also, if you are to look at an economy like ours, if the monies are getting into financial institutions instead of getting into the pockets of the people that are working, because when they get into the pockets of the people take that money to the markets. They will go and buy more. And when they take the money to the markets, they are taking the money into circulation. So there's more money that will be circulating if these people are taking what they are supposed to take home. But that hasn't been the case. And you've seen this will be like pouring water or carrying water using a basket. No matter how many times we'll be talking about issues of salary increase or maybe talk about other incentives, it will not make any sense until we deal with the root cause. Hence the issue of debt swap and not debt trap.
So you've talked about having two concepts. You said this debt swap has got two faces or two concepts, for lack of better term. Can you run us through what are these concepts that are attached to debt swap?
Yeah, I said debt swap is like an umbrella, but it stands on its own as well. Okay. Then we have two more other concepts.
Yes.
Okay? So we have debt swap, we have debt dismantling, and debt restructuring. And this is something that I need to make clear, not only to the members of the civil servants in this case, but also to the members of the public. And probably also to the politicians that seem to have had a heyday over this particular issue. In debt swap, you follow me keenly there.
Yes.
you have a situation where government owes a civil servant, and a civil servant owes government. So all you do is, let's not pay each other. Since I owe you and you owe me. So let's not pay each other. Because it would be unfair if I owe you, then you continue paying me, only for me to come and pay you later. So you swap, you cancel. However, if there's a difference in terms of owing, because government may owe this civil servant more or vice versa, that difference will be paid back to the other party. So if I'm a civil servant, I owe government more than government owes me, I pay government the difference. And also government will pay me the difference
if government
they
is owing
owe
you.
me more. Yes, that is debt swap. Then there's the issue of debt dismantling. Let me start with restructuring. We have debt restructuring. We have a situation where government does not owe you.
Okay.
You are not owed by government, but you are owing a third-party financial institution. For example, I'm owing Zanaco, but government is not owing me. What government is going to do in this case is to pay Zanaco, and then take this particular debt to the public service microfinance company. Meaning, I'm not free of debt per se, but this debt has been taken there for the purpose of restructuring it. Meaning, if I've been paying, for example, 2,500 kwacha per month, government will say, this is too much for my employee. Because if they continue paying to this financial institution 2,500, they will not have enough disposable income. So when I get this debt under the public service microfinance company, I'll, for example, look at for how many years is this employee remaining with me since they're under my charge. So if they have got 20 years, we can agree. Instead of 2,500 per month, you'll be paying 500 kwacha. And that interest that you were charged at the financial institution is going to be lowered or reduced. So you pay at a lower interest. I don't know if
that is the debt restructuring.
That's debt restructuring. Then we have debt dismantling. Debt dismantling, you have a situation where government owes the civil servant. The civil servant is not owing any financial institution. The civil servant is not owing government, but government owes the civil servant.
Yes.
For example, we are talking about settling in allowance, we are talking about leave benefits, we are talking about rural hardship, those personal emoluments related allowances. Government is owing.
Yes.
That is debt dismantling, and government is going to pay that money to the civil servants. So in this debt swap, that's what was the only thing that comes out is debt swap. But from the explanation, I wanted to bring it down.
Yes.
To make it even clearer. That apart from debt swap, because people are asking, what is debt swap? So debt swap stands on its own. There's also debt restructuring and debt dismantling, as I've explained.
As a union and as a president of this union, you've talked about three important, debt swap, debt restructuring, and debt dismantling. As NUPES, what is it that you've been proposing to government? I know that teacher unions have been, or unions that represent, civil servants have been engaging government. As NUPES, among the three, what is it that you've been proposing to government?
What we propose to government is to free this civil servant from the indebtedness.
Through what?
Through any means. So those, when they were proposed to say, maybe we go this way. We said, okay, this is a very good way to take the civil servant out of indebtedness. Yeah. So the three to us, if anything, constitute the best way of sorting out the problem that the civil servant has found himself or herself in.
Are you comfortable now that, is it true that government has just responded to one out of the three?
No. Government, we have in fact signed, because this is now an addendum to the collective agreement. And when you are talking about a collective agreement, it means the two parties have agreed on what should be implemented. So already those are agreed on items that are supposed to be implemented by government.
The three?
Yes.
And now government has started with one? Or all the three are being implemented?
All the three are being implemented.
Okay.
When you look at the pronouncement given by government that there shouldn't be any recoveries done this month.
Yes.
Or for the
next 3 months. Yes. Starting the month end of July.
This is a transition period. Are you getting it? So that everything is put in place for the payment of the arrears that these workers are owed.
Which falls under debt dismantling.
Also the issue of restructuring, the same debt, and also the debt swap. Yes. Because information must be given, and to Ministry of Finance. This information is not only coming from, in this case, since I'm coming from education, it's not only Ministry of Education that is supposed to give this information to Ministry of Finance, but all the spending agencies, all the ministries. Yes. And you find that the same addendum has got other issues attached thereto. For example, conditions, who qualifies and who doesn't qualify to be part and parcel of those three that I've mentioned.
And I was coming to that question. Who qualifies, or who are the beneficiaries? I know that you are representing a teacher union. From your union, does it mean every teacher who is affiliated to NUPES qualifies or is going, or she's going to benefit from the three? Okay,
this particular exercise will cut across all the civil servants. But you will agree with me that we have situations that are a little bit peculiar. You'll find that here is somebody who is on unpaid leave. Unpaid leave. Those will not be beneficiaries of that.
Okay.
Again, you find a civil servant who has been seconded to institutions outside the public service. For example, you are a teacher, but you decide to be with the World Vision. You will not be part and parcel of that. But if you are a civil servant and seconded to a public service institution, for example, you're a teacher, then you find yourself with Anti-Corruption Commission, you'll be eligible. You'll be eligible for that. So these are some of the things that constitute the conditionalities. Then we also have the way forward, because how do we then move forward to avoid what we have found ourselves in? And in this case, we are talking about indebtedness. Previously, or as it is now, quite right, we've got conditions that anyone who borrows should still remain with at least 60% of their monthly basic pay on the pay slip. 60%. But due to other circumstances and probably lapses in terms of who approves what kind of loan, you find that others have maybe even just 20% they go home with of their monthly basic pay. 20%. These people have got school-going children. They have got rent to pay. They have got food to buy and other responsibilities. How do they even concentrate when it comes to work? How do they concentrate? So this person is already consumed. This person has no motivation. And to tell you the truth, lately we've been losing a number of civil servants to suicide. Suicide that borders on indebtedness. So how do we rescue our people from debt? This bailout is going to save lives.
Should government be appreciated for the move taken? You as a union, do you feel government should be applauded, government should be appreciated, government should be praised for this move that they have taken?
You know, I think a couple of weeks ago, I had a press briefing. And this was one of the things we said government must do, or else. I'm on record. If government was not going to do that, we warned of unspecified action. And within few hours, we started getting responses from government. They had gone to sleep. It's actually the unions that woke them up. So that listening government, that listening ear that government gave us is what we are applauding. To tell you the truth, if we didn't start this issue, if that press briefing was not there, maybe we wouldn't be talking about debt swap.
So government should be applauded?
They should be applauded. Because if you go and tell somebody, do this because our people are dying, then they say, we agree with you. This is the way to go. Then they need commendation. They need to be applauded. And we would want to warn, maybe from the onset of this discussion, those that are taking this issue into politics, because it has been politicized, highly politicized. We are not into secular politics ourselves. If that time will come for us to be there, we'll be there, and we'll be talking about politics. Meantime, we are representing our workers.
Who is politicizing this move taken by government?
No, we've seen a lot of politicians talking about this issue. We've seen politicians talking about this issue.
Are they talking about this issue in a negative way or in a positive way? Because there are others that have offered, solution to say, if we're in government, the best way to handle this was this route. Others have said, no, if we're in government and our civil servants were in debt, we would have done A, B, C, D. Are they saying in a bad way?
We would have appreciated if that is what was coming out. But alas, hey-ho, what is coming out is something else. And here, we are talking about political parties. Those that are vying for whatever, positions for 12th August should stay put. We are apolitical. We are not political. That's what we are saying. When time comes for us to be in politics, we'll be in politics. This issue is an issue between the employee and the employer.
You've talked about the press briefing that you had, and you warned government for unspecified action.
Yes.
That you were ready to take as a union.
Correct.
Don't you think that was politics because you were twisting government?
Yeah, that's why I've been differentiating the kind of politics that we are talking about and the politics in question, because I'm talking about secular politics. Those are labor politics. Those are labor politics. So it was not, I'm twisting government. It was reminding government, because this issue is not an overnight issue. And for your own information, there are a number of things that we are dealing with other than the issue of debt swap. We have the issue of the automatic migration. We have a number of teachers in this case that have furthered their education, they have obtained higher qualifications, but have remained in lower salary grades. And we are pushing this issue as well. Sooner than later, results will show. We are going to bring the outcome of what we are pushing. But it's one thing at a time. So to us, this is a positive, and we feel we have scored.
Mr. President, the argument that others are having, and those that are trying to bring in politics, is that it is the same government that has made the civil servants to be in debt. Because one, the salaries have remained very low. Secondly, is that, some teachers haven't been given settling allowances. And so why should government be appreciated when it is the same government that has made civil servants to find themselves in these huge debts, and some have been failing to pay?
Yeah, you know, the issue at hand, for example, if you are to ask these workers, some of them will tell you, I have been owed since 2006. Others even 2000.
Government is owing them.
Yes, government has been owing them. So it's not that these people started being owed maybe beginning of 2011. No, it's a myriad of contributing factors. There has been this outstanding bill for quite some time. For quite some time. Some of them were before the current government got into power. So to wash everything on them and say they are responsible, it might not be fair. It might not be fair. Yes, to some extent, they have also contributed in their own way on what they found. But that they are entirely responsible for this whole bill is not true.
You've talked about, warning those that are bringing in politics, because you are not politics, but you participate in labor politics.
Correct.
And not this, politics that we are seeing. Others have got an argument that, yes, this is a good thing that government has done, but the people that are championing it, the people that are speaking the loudest, some are members of the ruling party. And already we've seen others suggesting that teachers, come August, should vote for the PF because the burden that they had has been lifted by this party. So they have been helped, and they need to help the party in power.
Yeah, I think when I say politicians should not drag this issue into politics, I meant all politicians, regardless of which political party they come from.
Including the governing party.
Including the ruling party. Because we as trade unions don't deal with the party. We deal with the government. Lately I've seen PS Information
Amos Marupenga.
Amos Marupenga doing a very good job. That one is a civil servant. He's part of the government and he's supposed to explain. So if there are people in the ruling party that seem to be championing this cause more than the people in government, should give this chance to those that are charged with the responsibility of explaining things to the civil servants for them to understand, so that there is no political capital out of it. Same with those in opposition. They should understand that this has nothing to do with politics. This is not politics. This is the same normal way of doing things on the part of government. Because we are the ones that have been pushing government. And we haven't been sleeping. We haven't been sleeping. And we are saying there are a number of things that are supposed to be dealt with, including the issue of automatic migration. I remember, in 2013, when government gave an unprecedented salary increase. To some extent, it was even 200%. Before implementation thereof, some people were skeptical. How are they going to implement 200% salary increase? But when September came of that year, it was implemented. There was an issue of salary upgrades not long ago. We did an assessment, went across the country to collect information as to who had what paper, came here, sat down, worked on the data, and the implementation was done simply by looking at one's qualification. Okay, this one has a degree, put them in the scale of a degree holder. And that was done. But over the years again, people have been coming out of these institutions. People have been getting higher qualifications, but have remained in lower salary grades. Government has said, we have heard you, but we need this information. And this is the information we are collecting and working on right now. These two are supposed to be upgraded. It will interest you to know that most of this indebtedness on the part of the civil servants, and especially the teachers in this case, borders on their school, their education. They want to better themselves. in order to teach effectively, which they are doing, which they have done. Now, because they are not put in proper grades, they lose opportunities. They cannot be promoted because they are considered, for example, as diploma holders even when they're degree holders. So this is something we are pushing again. This is something we are pushing again. And after the issue of the debt swap, you see us talking about the issue of the automatic migration. So that's why we are saying politicians should stay put on this issue. Yeah, in as much as they are there to politic. Okay, assuming PF is taking capital out of this, then politics also is about strategies. Why can't the opposition look for what they can say on the same issue? If they feel PF is politicizing it, then instead of thwarting and rubbishing this particular move, why don't they say, okay, with us, this is what we would have done.
Others have done that. Others have done that.
I'm yet to listen to that.
So are you comfortable if other political parties or the opposition will come and say, okay, this is the debt swap that government has implemented.
Correct.
But if we were in government, or if we are to form government, this is how we intend to do it. Are you going to be comfortable?
If they have seen something wrong with it, yes. Yes, would be comfortable. But not simply saying, no, this is a political gimmick. No, this is just to dupe the civil servants. That's what we are saying. Let it not be politicized. Because we are not politicians ourselves. And we are the ones that have been pushing government. Yes.
Others have got this argument, Mr. President, to say the timing is wrong. Because this is not the time that civil servants have been crying. They have been engaging government for years, but government has not been listening. Why should government listen in an election year and do the implementation weeks before elections? So they are politicking, and civil servants should not be used by these politicians. They feel you are being used because you are plotting government by implementing it in an election year, few weeks remaining before elections.
Okay, we don't have the barometer or yardstick to measure government's honest or dishonest. But because of what we have been doing with government, every now and then making some progress on things, we can't make progress because it's an election year. Our people are not going to eat politics. Our employees, our members will not eat politics. They need money to go home with. So for us, we don't look at politics. And we didn't look at politics. That's why I'm saying, if we didn't even tell government that this must be done, maybe the government wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have done that. Because before that, there was silence. Everybody was quiet. And would have as well remained quiet, then that thing wouldn't have been done. If it was initiated by government themselves, would have said, yes, this is a political gimmick. But we pushed them. We pushed them. That's why we are saying they gave us a listening ear. And that should not be politicized.
There are other members or other civil servants, like you've put it, to say there are those that don't owe, but government is owing them. And it is not clear what their stake will be. Yes, those that have been owing government, those that have been having difficulties in, sending their children to school, those that have been having difficulties to survive with this harsh economy, they're very happy and they have applauded government. But there are those that have been managing and they don't owe government, they don't owe any bank or any lending institution, but government is owing them. It is not clear, and they're still asking to say, what is it that is there for us? I know that our colleagues are celebrating those that have been owing, but some of us who have not owed government, but government is owing us. What is there for us?
Okay. Remember the three I talked about, debt swap, debt dismantling,
yes,
and debt restructuring.
Yes.
So that one falls under debt dismantling.
But the debt swap has swallowed everything.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And these are going to be done simultaneously. It's not that one will come after the other. Yes, there may be phases here and there to say this is, but at the end of the day, everybody is going to be paid whether you are owing a financial institution or not, provided government owes you, you are supposed to be paid. And that falls under debt dismantling. Under debt dismantling, this is where a civil servant, for example, has their salary intact. They don't owe anybody. They don't owe any third-party financial institution. But government owes them.
Yes.
So government will say, okay, we'll dismantle this debt of yours. We are going to liquidate it. Government will pay. That is it, debt dismantling. So if there are those that are saying, but what about us that are not owing the third-party financial institutions?
But government is owing us.
But government is owing us. Those fall under debt dismantling. Government will pay them off. Those that are saying, but government doesn't owe me. Instead, I owe the financial institution. That is under restructuring. Government will pay that particular financial institution and take that particular debt to the public service microfinance company, where you are going to pay government in this case, but in a very relaxed manner, to an extent that you have enough money to go home with. Then, if government owes you and you are owing government, you do the cancellation, the swapping. You owe me how much? 1 pin. I owe you 1 pin. So let's not pay each other. Okay, I owe you 1 pin, but you owe me 1.5. You just pay me 500. Don't pay me the other 1,000. That is what is there. And this is a good one. Now, for those that are saying, because we have heard some crying foul to say, we neither owe government nor the third party financial institution. Are you getting it? So what is in there for us? And at the same time, government doesn't owe us. Our friends are celebrating. What about us? Now, what they should understand is the obligation to pay back that loan hasn't been taken away from the other friends. They are still going to pay. They will still pay. Whether it's 200 or 500 kwacha per month, it is still money that will be going towards the settlement of that debt, which money will not be on your payslip yourself.
Is this information clear to your members or to civil servants? Do they know and understand the things that you've talked about? Because for me, I'm getting it for the first time that all civil servants, those that are owing and those that are not owing, are all part and parcel. They have been cut for. Yes. Are your members aware?
Yeah.
Do they have this information that you have?
That's why we are holding politicians, because immediately that was announced, they took it and ran with it to town. Politicians. Instead of giving time to government and the unions to explain these things to the members. And right now, in the background, the unions and government are working on a program to go and explain what I'm explaining now to the civil servants, so that they appreciate. Exactly. So this is going to be made clearer, even as unions and government representatives will be going to the provinces.
President Muyum, government has announced that for the next 3 months, no deductions. And I know that there are documents that, government is signing with these civil servants. Now, there are those that are still skeptical, civil servants who are saying, what if the bank refuses to deduct? Because we have been owing this bank, I've been owing this, lending institution, and government has been aware that I've been owing, but they have been deducting my money through PEMIC, but money has not been remitted, or they have not been remitting to this bank, and so my loan has been at the same level despite government deducting from my salary. And so maybe the bank that I owe or the lending institution won't adhere and follow the directive given by government, and they will deduct.
Yeah, this is what government is supposed to ensure, to make sure. And I know for them to come up with such a position, they have already done the homework. Otherwise, our plea to the government would be never to leave any financial institution out of this. All those financial institutions that have been lending monies out to civil servants must be in that cap, must be in that group. And they shouldn't go against what is there. They should understand that our people are supposed to be rescued. And government has got the moral obligation to set free its employees, whichever way. And at times, we need to be looking at what is right, okay? And what is humane. You know, so somebody was saying, I would rather be kind than right. Huh? You get that? I would rather be kind than right. For example, if it's at a workplace, somebody offends, instead of punishing them, you say, oh, okay, I'll not look at what has been written down here, because I should have fired you. All I'll do is warn you. So I'm being kind for the sake of that particular soul. So at times there may be other things, other statutory obligations that people may have, what statutes may be there, the contracts, whatever may be there, but the responsibility of saving a soul overrides these other things, because the contracts are made for man and not man for the contracts. So that's why we are saying government should thoroughly involve all the financial institutions, so that at the end of the day, there is no one that is going to escape.
Mr. President, there is also this concern that is coming from, economists and also politicians. Say, in 2021 budget, government only allocated 10% to go towards dismantling of debt. Now, if government comes up today and say, we are going to do a debt swap, we are going to pay on your behalf, others are saying, this is just because government has got no money. Clearly, in the 2021 national budget, they allocated 10% to go towards debt dismantling. Where are they going to find the money?
Okay. That question, I think, can be best answered by government itself, because when you want to catch a mouse and you have a cat, whichever style the cat uses to catch the mouse should not be your issue. What you are interested in is the mouse. How it has been caught, it's none of your business. It has been caught. So for us as workers, we are not going to start questioning where government is going to.
What you're interested is that
what we are interested in is
your cries have been answered,
to ensure that our people have food on the table, because they have got enough money coming through to them.
Now that we've talked about those that are in the public sector, your union also represents those that are in the private sector. We are still battling with COVID-19. We've heard of stories, teachers, those that are in the private sector, crying foul that with COVID, we are not being paid, things are hard. What is it that you're doing as a union to make sure that now these that are in public sector, at least they're going to have food like the way you've put it? What about those that are in the private sector?
The private sector has been a problem. It has been problematic in that, you can't simply go to a school and declare that you'll be representing all the teachers that are there. Be it a school, be it a hotel, be it any other, whether it's a shop, a farm. You can't go there and say, I've come to represent these people. No. You need to do a collective understanding, an MOU, okay? Memorandum of Understanding, recognition agreement with the employer. So you go to the employer and say, okay, we have come here not to force you, but to talk to you on the need for us to unionize your workers. Oh, okay, fine. Can we sign somewhere? You sign the terms on which you'll be engaging as a union and the employer on behalf of the employees. But what has been happening in the private sector, the employer has threatened the employees that should there be anyone amongst them that will show interest of getting unionized, they'll be fired. And because of that threat, there's been some form of collusion between the employee and the employer. You go to a school, you find employees, you tell them where you are coming from. You can even see how scared they are. You can see how scared they are. Because if it is linked that they even answered the unionist by the employer, there have been problems. We've been reporting these cases to Ministry of Labor, and the Ministry of Labor, to some extent, okay, in as much as they have had a lot at their hands, they have done their level best, and they are still doing so. So we are trying to still talk to these employers. It's difficult to represent them. So what we do is to refer them to Ministry of Labor, those employees, to say, since you are not our members, because for us, we have only a few schools that we have unionized in the private sector. And all the schools that we have unionized, the employers are paying the employees. So those that are not unionized, we are referring them to Ministry of Labor, because the employment code is very, very clear as to what should happen. For example, there's a contract that binds us. You can't simply unilaterally do what your inner demons dictate. You are supposed to follow what the contract is saying. You can't, for example, do what most of them are doing, sending people on forced leave because they cannot manage to pay them. The law says if you send somebody on forced leave, you pay them the basic pay. You give them the basic pay at the end of the month. You can remove the allowances, but the basic pay must be given. If you are going to chuck them out, to fire them, there's some money you need to pay them. The packages they need to go with, and not just like that. So that's why we are referring these people to Ministry of Labor. And some employers have learned it a hard way.
Do you have a successive story to tell, to say, after we took a step by taking these people to the Ministry of Labor, this is the outcome, and our members, because of the intervention of the Ministry of Labor, they are smiling today? Do you have a successful story to tell?
Correct. In fact, many, especially in the first round of this COVID, because most of them didn't know the content of the employment code. So we went, and this is what we've been telling the employers in the private sector. Look, we are even telling you what your obligations according to the law are. That's the goodness of a union. We also come here to capacitate your teachers so that their skills and whatever is happening within the schools can attract the people out there. Because the more people you have in your school coming, bringing the children, the more money you have. And we even told them then that you should be hedging your monies. If you receive school fees, what you remove for administration and what remains, don't take that money to your plot first. Or don't take that money into that car you want to buy. Put it in the account somewhere until you make enough to an extent that you can pay your teachers the whole year in an event that schools were closed. That's when you can start using your money. But some of them that we haven't had members with in terms of unionization, it's a hand to mouth. Hand to mouth. So when schools close like this, they are broke. They don't have money.
And the same in private schools, or those that are in the owners of these schools, have been appealing to government to say government should come. We saw government, giving stimulus packages to different sectors. Have you tried to engage government? Like you've mentioned, other school owners today, because it was hand to mouth, they have failed to pay teachers. Teachers are languishing in compounds, don't have anything to do. Others have been evicted from the homes that they were renting because they are unable to pay rent. Have you engaged government to say, as you are giving other sectors stimulus packages, can you also consider those that are in the private sector in terms of schools or teaching?
And that was last year when government did that, and we pushed government to do that. Through Bank of Zambia, some billions were released as a stimulus package. And that was indiscriminate. All businesses, including the schools that were hard hit, were supposed to apply for that particular package.
Did they?
Some of them did. And they received the money. But again, we need to understand that even government itself has got obligations. For example, if you're talking about reopening schools, government is supposed to release enough money to all the schools in the country to buy, the dishes, they can use for washing, or the buckets, to buy antiseptic soap, to buy enough things to be in place. That's a cost. So if everybody cries to government, then we are going to find ourselves in a very big problem. And that's why we have been saying, when and if you are running a business, you need to be as well prepared for calamities, so that at the end of the day, each one in their own, just like families, even as a family, where you sit there, where I sit here, I need to be preparing for calamities. What happens in an event that such a thing occurs or befalls us? What do I do? How do I feed the children? So that's what we need as a country, starting from families, individuals up to families, and also institutions. Because if we are going to have the days of immediately after independence, free this, free that, free, and that's why to some extent we are where we are. Some of us are not advocates of free things. We are not. Unless for those that are not able for one reason or the other. But not when you have two hands, two legs, your sight is okay, you can hear, you are actually able-bodied. Free things are not something we need to be crying for. We need to be toiling for whatever we are going to eat. We need to encourage the attitude of working hard. We need to ensure that all of us become diligent.
You've touched the issue of reopening of schools. We know that schools, have remained closed. What is the stance of NOPEZ? What are some of the proposals that you've been giving to government? You've mentioned that government needs to prepare. They need to make sure, they need to release money and prepare for a reopening. What are some of the measures or proposals that you've been giving to government that if we are to reopen schools, these are the things that you need to put in place?
Thank you so much for that question. A couple of weeks ago, we woke up to some circular that was purported to have been done by Minister of General Education, that schools were going to reopen on the 8th of July. And that unsettled some of us. And we spoke against that. We said schools should not reopen, because at that time, just as it is now, the country was going through a lot. The people were burying every day. When we were told that the COVID centers are full, the mortuaries are full, the graveyards are full, these are children's parents that we are burying. These are children's parents. And these are the children who want to rush into schools. Those that are sick there are parents of these children. You are not teaching machines. You are teaching children that depend on these people. Apart from that, our own members are being buried every day. Most of them are sick in homes. What will happen in those schools? So we stood against that particular circular, and it was confirmed later by PS information that schools had remained closed until further notice. Then the 16th August date to us sits well, because by then we would be in a position to tell which way forward. Now that we know when schools are supposed to reopen, we've been calling upon the Minister of General Education, one, to make it clear how we are going to proceed from 16th August up to, we don't know whether to be up to the end of the year. How are we going to proceed? Are we going to have a recess or not? That is supposed to be made clear now, for the betterment of the teachers and the parents, even the children. When we are talking about school fees, let it be made clear. When will these parents be expected to pay school fees? So that they can start preparing, not only physically, but also psychologically. This is something that should not be told at short notice. And when we reopen, we know it is an exam term. Are we going to maintain the exam timetable as it was known before we closed, or we are going to shift dates? This is something that must be made clearer by Minister of General Education. And they need to do so with consultation or in consultation with the stakeholders. And this must be done. And when they reopen, our demand is that, we have a problem. There's been a lot of insistence by our standards officers on lesson plans. This paperwork, a lot of paperwork for a teacher has not helped in this particular case. For example, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for 10 years, for example. Same grades. Why should I be writing a lesson plan for each and every lesson that I'm going to teach? I've taught for 10 years. I can even teach this lesson in my sleep. In my dream, I can
So
teach
you're
it.
against the lesson plans?
It's better we say maybe per week one must have 2 lesson plans. 2 lesson plans. We are stealing a lot of time from these teachers that are supposed to be carrying out research. You can imagine you are teaching a primary class, a lower class, from 6 hours to 11 hours. Each and every lesson must have a lesson plan. And this is a detailed lesson plan. For you to write one lesson plan, it's not less than 1 hour. When are you going to research? When is this teacher going to research? This teacher's performance must be gauged on the performance of the children and not how many lesson plans are in the file. This must be relooked into, or else we are going to continue having children that can't read, that can't write, because this teacher is busy writing things that are not even useful. Nobody moves into that classroom with that plan. No. This teacher already knows what constitutes this lesson. All we need is innovation. What we should be demanding from teachers is, what have you researched on this topic? How can you teach it in a simpler manner to the understanding of the children? Not your file, look at your file, look at this, hey, what? To me, those rituals must come to an end.
Mr. Muyumba, I know that we need to be winding down, and let me give you this bonus question. We've been told that COVID is here to stay. If the numbers continue the way they are, a date has been given by government or the Ministry of General Education that schools are to reopen on the 16th. If numbers continue, what is your proposal? Should schools open, or there are some selected classes that you can say, okay, if we are to open, if we are to go ahead and open schools, these are the classes that should open?
You are very intelligent. In fact, had you not suggested the answer, it was going to be difficult for me. But you have given a very good you've given a very good answer to the question. And that's how it's supposed to be. If the cases continue, but I think now we have seen some, should I call improvement? Some reduction, in short. There is some reduction in terms of the deaths and also how many are being hospitalized. And I know God is with us. Going forward, we may not be as bad as we have been. So if by then, on the 16th of August, cases are still there and it's not clear as to when we can be safe, I would propose that examination classes open. The others can catch up still. Examination classes should open. It will be better for us. And if that be the case, even the Ministry of General Education must be quick enough to announce. However, if all was okay, there's nothing wrong in opening all the classes so that we...
Mr. Muyumba, I would just ask, as we are concluding, you to give us your concluding remarks, and maybe there are those that, joined in the program later and they didn't understand that everyone is catered for with the date swap. Maybe as you are giving us your concluding remarks, you can also touch on that.
Thank you so much. So what we said was everybody is catered for in this. At least somebody who is being owed or is owing is catered for. Under date swap, if the employer, in this case government, is owing you and you are owing government, they will cancel. Those debts will cancel. But if one owes the other more, they will only pay the difference. This debt swap. Then debt dismantling. This is where the employee is owed by government, but the employee does not owe anyone. Then government has the responsibility of paying off, dismantling that debt. Then we have debt restructuring, where government is not owing you, but you are owing a third-party financial institution. Government will pay that institution, but shift that particular debt to public service microfinance company. And you will pay now there in a flexible manner. The interest rate will be low, and also how much you'll be paying will reduce greatly so that you have enough money to go home with. And these are the three aspects to this particular issue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Muyumba, for making an appearance on the special interview.
You're welcome, and I thank you too.
There you have it. This has been the special interview on your channel of choice, Movie Television, and I've been discussing debt. Is it debt trap or debt swap? My guest has been National Union of Public and Private Educators of Zambia, NUPE's Executive President, Mr. Victor Muyumba. You've heard it, civil servants. I'm sure you are happy. And we continue to follow the happenings or the unfolding in terms of the debt swap, the debt restructuring, and debt dismantling with keen interest. My name is Kelvin Tabola, Chief Fokolo. Many thanks to Mavuto Piri, the director and the producer of this special assignment, and everyone involved in the production. Until next time, good night.